Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tuesday, May 6th edition of the Gateway API Community Meeting. As always, this meeting is governed by the Kubernetes Code of Conduct, boiling down effectively to be nice to one another, so please do be nice to one another. Also, please use the raise hand feature in Zoom when you have questions or interjections, as this helps us to keep things flowing and organized. This is an open agenda meeting, so please do feel free to grab the agenda doc and add something to today's meeting notes. If we can make it to it today, then we will. If not, we can always put it in the parking lot for an upcoming meeting. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here, I think. Yeah. We don't have, or we didn't have a whole lot on the agenda. Looks like we have a couple more items coming in. I don't think we have the right crowd here to do triage today, so I was going to skip triage. But we need to get back to that because we have such a huge backlog of triage. So without further ado, I just wanted to do a quick update and remind people that we have started the 140 release cycle and scoping for that. So getting things into scope for that ends on Friday, May 20th, which is just in a couple weeks here. So if you have something that you want to graduate from experimental to standard or into experimental during this release cycle, please go check out these discussions, read the description on them thoroughly. And if you have something that you are willing to work on to move forward during this release cycle, please do feel free to put it in a proposal given the template that is there. So with any questions about 140? If not, we'll just move on.
I'm sorry. Um, where are the milestone dates written down for reference?
Yeah, the scoping is actually here in the scoping docs or scoping discussions, and then the other dates are in the milestone itself. So you'll see that we're saying it's due on October 31st,
Mm-hmm.
and that feature freeze will be on 10/10.
So May 20th is scoping, and then when's the end of the all the GEPs have to be written phase?
Pretty much all the GEPs have to be written within a few weeks after that.
Yeah.
So I don't have that part written down. I should probably get that written down, what the time period where we want things to be hardened down so that we're just focusing on implementation. I don't have that yet. I'll get that updated.
Okay. Yeah, that would be helpful. Not end of the world helpful or anything like that, just helpful.
Yeah, will do. And then so far for standard, the only thing proposed so far is backend TLS policy graduating to standard. There's been quite a bit proposed for experimental. So this release may end up being experimental heavy, which is good. So please do take a look, see what's in there already that you might want to +1, and if there's anything that you are willing to drive and want to drive forward during this time period, let us know. We won't be able to do everything, but if we have enough people coming forward to help, we should be able to get a lot done.
There are currently 11 things in experimental.
Mm.
Did we decide to lift the limit on the number of things in experimental, or are we still in the world where if we want to add things to experimental, we got to get something as standard to get it out of experimental at the same time?
I think technically we're saying we need to get things out. I
Just
think
making
that
sure.
there may be something in that list right now. I'd have to go back over and look at that list, but I think there may be something in that list that isn't quite. Let's go take a look real quick while we're here. Might as well.
So I'm looking at the website, named route rules.
We did also have that declaration about trying to close the gap with the rest of checks. So if there's something that strictly falls into that category, that may
Yeah.
be over and above what we did previously.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything in here that I would say is explicitly in the service of table stakes features for API gateways, right?
What are you looking
Um,
at in particular? I'm looking at the project page.
I'm
Or
looking
the,
at the things listed in the experimental, like on the Gateway API website. If you go look at
oh, gotcha.
enhancements and look at the experimental set, Um, I suspect that there's drift between the two, but I started there because I figured that going with the things that we were describing, claiming to the community might be a good idea.
Yeah. For instance, I think inherited policy
Actually,
attachment is memorandum or is on its way to memorandum. So that one's in a interesting
right.
state at the moment.
And actually, you know what? I misspoke. Session persistence and HTTP route retries are both table
Yeah.
stakes features for, you know,
Yeah. Actually, yes. And that would be a really good one if somebody could step forward to move that one to standard, get that one moved to standard this year. That'd be fantastic.
Yep,
yep.
I'll do it.
Okay, cool.
Cool.
Thank you. If you would post
We,
it on the
we very,
discussion, I'm sure you'll get a lot of plus ones.
yeah, we very quickly had the implementation needed for that, so I don't think that should be a problem.
Cool. Thank you.
Yep.
Wonderful.
Course filter. Man, I just wasn't reading properly when I said that. Never mind.
No worries. No worries. No worries. Cool. So yeah, standard and experimental, please start go over things, see if there's something you want to work on and move forward. Read the description of the discussions there because they do have some rules. All right. Mike, we'll switch it off to you. You are rereading this issue. Back in TLS policies, service attachment is problematic.
Oh yeah, no discussion needed. Just wanted to let folks know that, hey, I'm actually working on this. Trying to kind of
Oh, okay.
clarify the path forward here based on the discussion we had last time. Yeah.
I've had some
So,
minor conversations about this recently. I haven't dug in really deep or anything, but my understanding is that it's really only a problem for service mesh.
It's not. It's also a problem if you have like two different gateways. Um,
Okay.
I think,
there's a, and like depending on your gateway configuration with TLS pass through, there's some weird edge cases where we just need to be really explicit about it and not trying to like stretch it into things which are semantically inconsistent.
Roger that. Okay.
I might,
Cool.
I
Well,
might actually go so far as to just extend this one to service attachment considered harmful, or at least service
That's
attachment. Service attachment is, and I've been thinking about this some, right? I feel
yeah,
like any time we are attaching a policy to a service, that is a signal that we're doing something wrong and we're going to get ourselves in trouble, or at least we're going to get ourselves in trouble if we don't think about it really, really carefully. So
yeah.
it feels like a signal that we should think very carefully about what we're
that
doing.
that is another like core part of this issue, and one potential solution is some sort of like secondary targeting scope on the
Yeah.
policy attachment framework, because like without that you're only directly targeting service. It's unclear if it's applicable to all gateway implementations of the cluster, which would be an implicit default. If we start, I really want to avoid getting down to like we start making rules about it is effective
Well,
for north south and not for east west, and yeah,
yeah,
that's
but
gonna
there's
get
another,
mess.
yeah, and there's another nasty one that comes up as I've been thinking about the trying to describe the problems with the interaction of gateways and meshes. And it's that gateways almost always are going to want to route to endpoints. And as soon as you route to the endpoint, the service mesh doesn't know which service you were talking about in the first place anyway. So if we bind things to services and then we throw that information away as the traffic is coming into the mesh, that makes life really fascinating. And um, I honestly have not been able to think of any way of dealing with that other than out of band signaling, and out of band signaling is awful. So yeah, it's ooh, I'm the co-host. All right. I get to mute everybody. Sorry, was that my outside voice? Um,
well, I just remember that
yeah.
I do have to drop at the half hour, so I talked to Flynn about taking over if we go past the half hour. So
You guys
But
hand
yeah,
up?
so so that was it really does get interesting if we have things that are bound to services, especially when we start thinking across the levels there. I'm sorry, Guy, you've had your hand up for a little bit.
Yeah, I would like to ask if the reason why you see service attachment as particularly problematic has to do with the confusion between gateway and service mesh use cases and service, or there's something else? Because I could argue that if that is the reason, maybe even attaching to a root, could raise the same kind of concerns. But anyway, I'll let you answer.
Um, I feel like there are a couple of different things there. The biggest one is that we don't always have the service available. And if we are attaching to, okay, A, we don't always have a service available. B, we don't own service. And anytime we are modifying the behavior of a service we don't own, then we get into some other interesting corner cases and we start asking questions about, okay, what happens if a piece of the system goes down or whatever, things like that, right? So those are the two, those are the two things. I should probably also point out that I would not say that this is at the level of me going, oh dear God, we must stop doing this immediately. It's more at the level of me going, we saw policy attachment to a service as a solution for certain problems early on, and I don't think we really thought all of the corner cases through at that point. And I think we should put some serious thought into it. So yeah, that's about it.
Noted. Thanks for explaining.
Yeah.
Mike, appreciate you taking a look at this one. Just wanted to point out that we did start kind of using the parent-child relationship feature in GitHub, and so that one is a child of the GEP now. I imagine you already thought this, but just make sure you check in with Candace because I talked with her about this one just like the other day. She's very she is thinking about this one actively, to my knowledge.
Cool. Yeah, I had talked with Nick a little bit about working cancel stuff.
Cool. Thank you for bringing it up. Thank you for taking a look. Let us know if you get stuck or if you need some help.
That's good. Thanks.
Ariane, level 7, or sorry, layer 7 authorization policy for gateways and mesh workloads.
Yeah, hi folks. I'm Aryan. I work for Google working on like the gateway API mesh. So the gateway API doesn't have like auth and auth APIs at this point, like for especially for the like east north south. North south there's no auth and east west there's no MTLS and there's no auth. And auth is a common requirement for both gateways and mesh. So I was thinking of like I I think I created a gap, but it was too early to create a gap. I think we should I want to discuss it with the community first and then go ahead with that. So I was thinking of like creating a gap for the L7 OTZ policy, and the targets for that I was thinking in my mind would be like gateways, like pod labels for the mesh workloads and routes. What do you guys think about this?
Did
Any
you
on
did
this?
you read the auth? Bleh. Did you read in the meeting notes the long thing about auth from the meeting on the 3rd of April?
Uh, no, I don't think I read it.
I'm pulling it up on my screen share here.
Yeah, it's a little buried and we should
So
expose that
where are
audio.
we, by the way, with the author and auth APIs right now? If you can give me a TLDR on that.
Everything I know about it is captured in the document that Shane, this is in the meeting notes. It's just kind of far down now. Everything that I know there is described in that. I don't believe that we've gone as far as an API description. We did get the idea that a good place to start would probably be to go and, well, it's written down there. Adding a north-south mechanism for using Envoy's X.Z. And specifically, Nick was talking about adding a gap for X.Z HTTP route filter, and then worrying about adding auth defaults to the gateway after that. So I would, if you have an interest here, I would strongly encourage you to get in touch with Nick because he is also, I believe, actively doing some stuff on this for 2.4, or sorry, 1.4.
Okay, so we have not decided like on anything on the targets or on the rules so far on Auth and Auth, right?
Correct.
Okay, cool. I'll check this doc and probably connect with Nick offline.
That's
Sounds
Nick
good.
Young, and he is
Something
available
that
on Kubernetes Slack.
Yeah.
it's a thing that a few of us have an interest in. Myself, representing Istio Mesh, Glenn from Linkerd, and Nick is working with Sylvan. So the meshes, that we're the right folks to talk to. It's just it has not been as critical a use case for us yet as some of the other more table stakes functionality.
Yeah.
I
Definitely a
see.
thing that if someone wants to drive it forward, I would be happy to help review and contribute to it.
Okay.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Um,
that could be the other reason, because like with Google, we are like building a mesh just with the gateway APIs, and without Auth and Auth, no one is going to adopt it. So
Yep,
we
so we've heard a little bit about the use case from Layer before.
yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Cool. I'll probably sync with you guys offline on this. Thanks.
Sounds good. Guy.
Yeah, another person to maybe to put in the loop. I see you also already pinged him, and Lior's not here, right? Because Lior has also been thinking on the problem of L7 authorization rules. I won't say policies necessarily for the mesh use case in particular. In fact, the two of us, we were discussing that last week. So I think he might also be another person that you may want to hear about.
Right.
And other than that, I think I already shared some of my thoughts on that particular proposal, right? In the issue itself. But another piece of feedback that, and I think it might be the reason why the GAP focused so much on authentication first, is because the problem with thinking on authorization is that it's hard without first defining the concept of identity, right? So even though you call out authorization specifically on the title of this proposal, I think probably, and maybe somebody else can correct me if I'm wrong, but probably we're first trying to solve the problem of authentication and resolving to a particular identity. So maybe then on top of that, we can reiterate and also talk about authorization. Does that sound a fair description of the current state of Nick's gap?
I think so. This is, I just added a note in there. Oh, Lior is here. Cool. One of the reasons that we were talking about starting with north-south rather than east-west is actually that the north-south side of the world seems to have settled a little bit better on what a principle looks like than the east-west side of the world right now. Laura, what did you have to say?
Yeah, you beat me up to it. I was about to say, so I just rejoined, but so I didn't hear the whole context. But I heard, I think there is slightly different semantics going to be between east west and north south, and yeah, the north south, as far if I remember the gap correctly, is going to standardize first on X or Z, which is fine. And again, also the identity is going to be different. But I think
Yeah.
there's still going to be different, slightly different semantics for East-West, which is something I'm hoping to standardize. But again, it's not the high-level bullet here that we're talking about. But
Yeah. Yeah, it's a little
yeah.
tricky because north-south tends to be concerned with user auth and east-west tends not to be concerned with user auth, but workload, right? So
Right.
yeah, it
And to this point,
yeah.
like I am not sure. And earlier today, I saw Mike also commented on the thread I opened on Gateway API Slack channel. I am not sure if and how we want to first standardizing on authentication / identity before we're progressing with something like this. And because A, it feels like it's going to be much more controversial, and B, can authorization policy for East to West to be deployed without actually being opinionated about how the identity is transmitted, or yeah, like wanted to get opinions there. But yeah, it's not Aryan's bullet, so maybe we can push it to the end.
We had this,
Mike?
for what it's worth, we had discussed a year ago about kind of skipping over the off-end thing by saying, service accounts are good enough and used widely enough by most implementations for East-West things that, like, as long as we have some sort of extensible structure, if we start with just that and maybe Spiffy, then we can focus on the auth problem without rabbit holing into too much like auth and about specific nuance, slightly different versions of all. So that was an idea.
It is definitely an idea. It's I mean, it might even be a good and workable idea. It's a thing that we should probably talk about a little bit more. In particular, and you would know this better than I do, Mike, but in particular, I feel like Istio's principles are spiffy and not service account based, aren't they?
There are 50 like principles that do not conform to like the literal 50 standards or something like that. They're like slightly off. So that's a problem that I don't want to deal with immediately.
So maybe what
I
we
think
ought to do is just commit.
There's 50 per service account. And
Maybe we ought to
every
just
50
commit both of the meshes to going all in on spiffy so that it's equally painful for all of us.
Well, so that's the problem, I think, is that like it's the specific like task structure of like within the general Spiffy framework, we're using that.
Right.
But the specific path structure may be different between Linkerd and Istio, which is a like
I'm basically
problem.
100% certain that it is different between Linkerd
Yeah.
and Istio.
Yeah.
And at some point it would be worth, well, okay.
That's basically
At
like the
some
problem that I
point-
don't want to solve yet.
yeah, at some point, TM, it would probably be good to talk a little bit about that with some of the mesh folks and some of the spiffy folks. But I certainly do not have any problem with punting mesh interop issues a long, long way down the road at the moment. So, yeah.
Well, yeah, okay, let's yeah, we can defer it. I just had one comment about like, do we necessarily need to be opinionated about the spiffy format right
So
now?
to start, I don't think we do.
Yeah.
I don't think that's necessary as a starting.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I wanted to just bring up that as far as I'm looking at the notes, it was not the bullet for discussion that Aryan brought up. So I just want to be considerate about it, so we don't overtake the.
I think we're long past the point of being considerate of not stealing Aryan's point, so my apologies. Aryan, I think you said that you would be getting in touch with Nick and
Yeah, I'll
picking
check
up with some
Nick and
folks
Leah.
offline. Was there anything else that you wanted to add there?
No, I guess I'm good for now. I'll check with Nick and Lior. I work closely with Lior, so
Okay.
I'll go from there. Thank you.
Sounds good. Let us know
As-
if you get stuck at all. Ping us in Kubernetes Slack. We're pretty active in there.
I think that might be more like, let us know when you get stuck.
Yeah, let us know when you get stuck. At
Yeah,
the point
'cause-
which you are stuck, which will happen, let us know.
Which will happen, because as you may have inferred from our discussion here, this is a thing that has been kicked around on a number of occasions. And for the most part, what we've ended up settling on was, this is hard. Maybe we'll do it later.
Yeah,
But it's later, so we at least need to tackle this for north-south for for the case where we've got API gateways like Ingate that are going to need this sort of thing.
Yeah, actually, I remember like when I used to work with John. When John used to work for Google, he raised it in Gateway A community long back, like a year back or so. We started the discussion, then it went off or something.
Yeah. Lior has just placed a comment in the agenda to the tune of, please review my PRs. I would like to apologize publicly to Lior for not reviewing his PRs yet. I have an event happening on Thursday that is consuming a ridiculous amount of bandwidth right now, but I promise you I will get to them this week. Yeah, okay. So Lior says my apology is not accepted. So I'll just have to, I don't know, exercise my host powers or something. Lior, actually, go ahead and put links to your PRs in the meeting notes so that all of us who should have reviewed them have an enumeration of the ways in which we have failed. And yeah, that'll probably be okay.
So
Thank you. Appreciate that. Anything else? Have we actually reached the end of the meeting in only half an hour?
So,
to
Okay. So now that Christine has showed up, we can leave.
bye y'all. Take care.
um,
Go ahead,
1 second.
Leo.
Yeah, I wanted to have a comment. Like, if someone can pair, so the only reason I'm not doing more PRs on this conformance things we were talking about for mesh is because I just don't want to have like 1,000 million PRs open. So if someone can pair about like, it's going to be pretty repetitive, adding more
Okay.
conformance tests and everything's going to be the same structure. So at least until we finish HTTP routes, I think there'll be a win. So if someone is able to pair and then like, I can dig in there and that'll be great.
I probably
Yeah, I
can't
will.
for this week and next, but maybe after that I can find some plans.
I will commit. Actually, I will put this in here. Len will review this week. There. Now it's in writing. But I will definitely review those two this week, and then we can talk about if there's other stuff you need beyond that.
Sounds good.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yep.
Bye, y'all.
Yep. Sounds good. I will talk to y'all later. Thanks for showing up, and see y'all in a couple of weeks, if not before.
So,